If the devil lives anywhere, it could be in San Francisco.
From our point of view, it really makes no difference whether you pray to a father god or to a mother goddess or to an entire gaggle of gods and goddesses. You're still wishing the same thing. You're still wishing to be included. You're still wishing for their acceptance. You're waiting for them to put their arm or arms around you and say, you belong, you are part of us, you can relax, we will take care of you, we approve of you, we endorse you. The Satanist, the black magician, does not seek that kind of submergence of the self. We do not seek to have our decisions and our morality approved or validated by any higher god or being. We take responsibility unto ourselves.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. And like that, he's gone.
Steve Outtrim, welcome back to the Gnostic Media Podcast. How are you tonight?
Good, thanks, Ian. How everybody? Great to be back.
And tonight we're going to continue our discussion into the shadow history of burners, Silicon Valley's secret weapon. But we're going to be changing gears a little bit. What are we going to be talking about tonight?
Well, tonight we're going to focus in on Satanism. So in the last episode, we looked at the Presidio, how the Church of Satan was basically started right next to the military base, and also how Burning Man was started right next to the military base. Tonight we're going to zoom in a little bit more on what Satanism actually is, how it relates to the sort of things that you and Hans Utter have been looking at in FM radio, and the things you and Joe Atwell have been exploring in the counterculture and the music industry. How does Satanism plug into that? We'll look at how does Satanism plug into the tech industry, and then we'll also look at how does that all fit together with, into Burning Man. But all of this stuff revolves around the Presidio.
Interesting. All right, and excuse me, last time we had some false copyright claims filed against the video, and the videos were removed from YouTube for about 3 weeks, and we did get them back up. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, I think before they were taken down, it was very interesting. Both you and I were watching the two videos, and it really seemed like something strange was happening with the view count. Because normally you put a video on YouTube, you know, a couple of people might watch it. I have 250,000 followers on my website, so maybe in an hour, maybe 10 people might watch it. But you know, you go every 15, 20 minutes, refresh YouTube, and there's a few more people who have watched it. But what was happening with our videos is they weren't going up at all, even if we ourselves were watching it. And then every hour or so, they might go up by like 100, 108 or something at a time. So it really seemed like the view count was being throttled, that there was an active effort to stop them spreading, and then they were yanked from YouTube entirely, this false copyright claim. And anyway, we managed to get them restored, which is great. It took a little bit of the momentum out, and let's see if we have to battle with anything like that again. It certainly seems like the trolls have come out in full force. You and I have both been under troll attacks, cyber attacks. There's some people that don't want the story of what happened 30 years ago with a bunch of Satanists and the Presidio and the birth of the internet. They don't want anyone to know that story, I guess. But anyway, the story is on the public record. It's all based on open source intelligence, what we're talking about tonight. There's no military secrets being shared. And most of the people we're discussing, we're going to be sharing quotes from them, things that they've actually said themselves on the public record.
Absolutely. Yeah, and another thing that happened on the Gnostic Media website is immediately after episodes 1 and 2 were released, the website was inundated with hacker attempts for about a week solid for each episode. And, and I mean, I was getting emails from the website every 5 or 10 minutes for a week that the website was under attack. And so, yeah, I mean, they definitely didn't like it. They definitely pooled together teams of trolls from Russia and China and the U.S. and Australia and everywhere else where they pool these teams of, cyber terrorists from, and put the website under attack. So, tonight, let's address the Satanists directly.
Yeah, I mean, let's have a look at who these guys are and what do they believe. So, can we go into the screen sharing?
Yes. Hopefully, it'll pick up just fine. Let's go ahead and try it.
To the detractors or the accusers or the people of the other side that would say that Satanists would like to kill animals, sacrifice animals, I would say that they would make ideal human sacrifices. I love animals. I've always been part of animals. Animals are part of me. But I can assure you, Satanism is here to stay. Satan can take the form of a beautiful woman. Satan can take the form of a sleek animal. An automobile can be very satanic. These things can be anthropomorphized into Satan. And so I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to call up any demons, if I'm going to get any magical power, if I'm going to get anything going my way, I better get on the side of those guys instead of protecting myself from them.
Okay, so yeah, let's look at Satan and the occult, and how does that relate to everything that we're talking about. So firstly, moving into some definitions. And it might be surprising to people to know that the definition of Satanism, as it goes by the various dictionaries, is completely disputed by Satanists. So what they believe and what the dictionary says they believe are two different things. So the dictionary definition, and for this presentation series, I'm mostly using dictionary.com. It says the worship of Satan or the powers of evil, or a travesty of Christian rites in which Satan is worshipped, or a diabolical or satanic disposition, behavior, or activity. So in each of those cases, they're worshipping the devil, this terrible evil entity, Satan. In fact, that's Luciferianism, the worship of the devil. And Satanists are quite specific about that they do not worship a devil. Rather than atheists, they're I-theists. So their belief is that that they themselves have the potential to become a god, and they should cultivate themselves to become God, and that there are no magical creatures or beings, and there is nothing beyond the realm of the five senses, I guess. So in that regard, a Satanist really is basically identical to an atheist. And in modern times, what you will find with most atheists is also an embrace of scientism. So that scientism, as we discussed earlier, is the belief that science is the best way to resolve every situation for humanity, and all answers come from science. And because of that, any answer from science is superior to any other answer. And this type of thinking, I don't want to get too bogged down to the philosophy of it, because you could get into this all night, but Satanists certainly aren't alone in this philosophy. And it might be surprising to some atheists to know that they think the same thing as Satanists. I think many burners who are like, well, Burning Man's nothing to do with Satanism, if you went and spoke to them about their philosophies, you'd find that they actually have the complete philosophies of Satanism. Here's a quote from the Church of Satan website. It says, the Satanist realizes that man and the action and reaction of the universe is responsible for everything. It doesn't mislead himself into thinking that someone cares. Is it not more sensible to worship a God that he himself has created in accordance with his own emotional needs, one that best represents the very carnal and physical being that has the idea power to invent a God in the first place? So the idea of the Satanist is man is the be-all and end-all. All men can potentially equal or different. It's up to each man. In that case, you should be the best that you can be. We're getting back to Jim Channon, the army, be all you can be.
All that you can.
you know, these philosophies are aligned. And just shooting down my page here a bit, we get to. Oh, sorry,
let me interject there. Even I believe it's the Army logo, the new one, depicts Satan in a face hidden in the wings, or is that the Air Force?
Right. Yeah. Well, it's really quite incredible how many logos, symbols, and emblems do have satanic elements within them, buried within them. They're really quite visible if you look, but most of us would never even think to look. So of course we don't notice. It doesn't surprise me that the Army would. The British Navy has also accepted Satanism as an acceptable religion. So that means if a soldier wants to have a satanic funeral with a pentagram draped over the coffin and everything, they can in the US military and they can in the UK military. I'll talk about that a little bit more on the next slide. I've got a definition as well of Luciferianism. Luciferianism kind of seems like a bit of a catch-all. It's a belief system that includes theistic and atheistic denominations. It's therefore heavily influenced by differing personal beliefs. Now, many think it's a religion. Some think it's just a philosophy or a way of life, like Burning Man and its 10 principles. So there's no specific dogma of Luciferianism, but encompasses a broad range of beliefs with numerous personal variations, ranging from veneration of a literal deity, an evil deity, and the practice of occultism, which is practicing magic, to a secular set of principles, such as Burning Man, that use mythological references as a form of symbolism and cultural tradition. So one side of Luciferianism is saying there's a devil and it's just like God, we worship it, we give it prayers and it gives us power. Another side of it is saying, oh, everything's just myths, but we choose to have these particular symbols as the way of expressing our views of science and mythology. And it's that second part of Luciferianism that if you've seen in the news, they're building a temple of Baal in New York or a temple of Baphomet in Detroit or whatever. This is their appeal that, hey, we've got freedom of religion. Our actual belief is in science, and it's just a symbol to us, so let us have our horned goat figure statue. But I think, as we've been covering in these symbols, there's a lot more to it than it's just a symbol, you know. And I think that worship in any traditional sense of the word is what these people are doing to these philosophies.
Yeah, well, you know, I agree with you, and they're performing all of these rituals, and you see them doing sacrifices and things to these gods, so, or at least a lot of them, so it would appear from an outsider that, you know, many of them, even if they deny it, are still worshiping a god-type figure.
Yeah, and then if I shoot across my slide a little bit here, one of them says syntheism. And so the concept of the syntheism is to actually create God ourselves. Now, you can create God, and this is actually not that different from the beliefs of things like Buddhism, where you're cultivating within yourself that God-like sense and an evolution of your powers. And one of the things of Buddhism is if you see Buddha in the road, kill it, right? And then you become the Buddha yourself. And Satanism has a very similar philosophy. Luciferianism will be, you can't, the devil's more powerful. But, you know, it's just basically different ways to look at a very similar thing. And where it translates to modern times and the internet is that many of the people involved at the core level of building the internet, such as Ray Kurzweil, Director of Engineering at Google, this is their spiritual belief. They're atheists. They don't believe in God because they believe that they're actually creating God themselves. And by creating a digital God on the internet, through artificial intelligence, whatever it is, you know, artificial life forms through biotech, these people become gods themselves when they make gods. We've also seen recently Elon Musk, you know, talking about the pitfalls of artificial intelligence and saying, well, video will get so good we can't distinguish it from reality. AIs will get so good we can't distinguish them from real people. So how do we know that hasn't happened already? I mean, it's like, it's a philosophical trap that you could go on with
absolutely
forever, right?
You know, and of course, they never supply the onus of proof to say that we could be living in one. I mean, the evidence is on them to begin with. And so then what the goal is to get people caught into a philosophical or sophist circle jerk, essentially, where they get people that don't know logic caught in a trap, and it's like, oh, well, we might as well just get chipped anyway, since we can't know if we are or not in this realm that these people are creating.
Yeah. Oh, if we get chipped, we'll get better content. The ads will be more targeted to us.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Everything is about convenience when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's move on to the next slide, which is I've pulled this from the Church of Satan website, and this is basically they're saying that this is the steps that people go through when they become a Satanist. And I'm not trying to promote.
This isn't going to be the hero's journey, is it?
Well, you could definitely map it to the hero's journey.
I was just throwing out a guess out there because
you'll probably see as we go how these steps could probably be joined together. But anyway, I'm not advocating Satanism, but one thing that doing this research has led me to is that many people really do believe in this. It's more than a scientific philosophy. It's become a spiritual philosophy, and it's driving a lot of the stuff in the tech industry. So even if you don't think any of this is real, the fact that so many people do and are driven by it means it's something that we need to be aware of and think about. And in this slide here, actually, we see quite a few things where there's a big intersection and overlap in the Venn diagrams between the Trivium method and Satanism, because it is about logic and reason and rational thought. So we begin with nature encompasses all that exists. There's nothing supernatural in nature. I don't believe that. Satanists do. The spiritual is an illusion, and I'm utterly carnal. This is man and animals. This is the Darwin origin of the species, Huxleyan philosophy. Reason is my tool for cognition, and that makes faith anathema. I question all things, and I'm a skeptic. I mean, that's good. It's good to do that, right? Sort of with them at that point. I do not accept false dichotomies, finding instead the third side, which brings me closest to understanding the mysteries of existence. The universe is neither benevolent nor malevolent. It's indifferent. In which case, it doesn't really matter whether you're malevolent or benevolent either. It's indifferent. So you should just do what thou wilt and act in the way that gives you the most immediate gratification, and who cares about the consequences towards others? There are no gods. I'm an atheist. There's no intrinsic purpose beyond biological imperatives. I decide what's meaning, what's value. I am my own highest value, therefore I am my own God. I mean, if you could demonstrate godlike powers because you thought in your head you were great, then that statement might be true.
Well, and this is why they want to conquer life and, birth and all of that, so that they can then claim God, because this is one thing that the Satanists haven't mastered, is the spark of life. Right,
absolutely. But they're certainly working on that in the lab, and we'll talk a little bit later in this presentation about robots and how they fit the satanic agenda as well. Good is that which benefits me and promotes what I hold in esteem. Evil's what harms me and hinders what I cherish. I live to maximize the good for myself and those I value. I remain in control of my pursuit of pleasure. I'm an Epicurean. And, you look at guys like Crowley, like the ultimate beast, 666, and the guy died heroin addicted. He was a victim of his demons, and so were most of the people that did magical rituals with him. So this is whatever they tell you. I don't believe that this is actually a pathway to being Superman. You're Superman, so just take lots of LSD and then you'll get new kinds of consciousness that will make you superior to others, and then you can have more LSD. And yeah, it's very easy to see how people do get led when they're being told by people good looking, attractive, people they look up to, giving them free drugs and saying, you are a god. Wow, you're a god, and I'm going to help you be even more of a god.
Exactly. You're going to evolve, you're going to elevate, you're going to do all of these things because you're taking a drug.
Yeah. Or a mixture.
Or being a vegan or whatever, sure.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And so merit determines my criteria for judgment of myself and others. I judge and am prepared to be judged. So this is a justification for all the eugenics and everything like that. And for the Eloi versus Morlock division of the world between the elites and everybody else. I would do unto others as I would prefer they do unto me, but if they treat me poorly, then I'll return that behavior in like degree. So it's a vengeful belief system. And then here we go. I grasp the human need for symbols as a means for distillation of complex thought structures. So this is once the Satanist has been through this logical journey of I'll do what I want and everyone will be damned, then it's like they need symbols. So, I wonder what symbol I should have. Well, the symbol that best exemplifies my nature as an aware beast is Satan, the avatar of carnality, justice, and self-determination. And these are kind of the essence, the raw essence qualities of Burning Man. It's all about self-expression, self-reliance, do what you want. It's all up to you. Throw the old rules aside, throw your clothes out the window, and just indulge all of your passions and your senses. And it's in an environment where your senses are bombarded. So, and then the symbol, well, there's a giant symbol at Burning Man. And you'll find that if Satan isn't at the head of many of these cults, there'll be another symbol, but it will be the same belief system. And then finally it goes, I see myself reflected in the philosophy of LaVey, and I'm proud to call myself a Satanist. So if you've got that far, 17 steps or whatever to the bottom, they've probably mind-controlled you by that point, and then they'll ask you for a donation.
Just like every church.
Yeah. So I've got a clip here. Do you want me to go to that on my screen?
Sure.
Well, it occurred to me for many, many years that there was a large gray area between psychiatry and religion that was untapped, and no religion had ever been based on man's carnal needs or his fleshly pursuits. All religions are based on abstinence rather than indulgence, and all religions, therefore, have to be based on fear. Well, we don't feel that fear is necessary to base a religion on. This is a very selfish religion. We believe in greed, we believe in selfishness, we believe in all of the lustful thoughts that motivate man, because this is man's natural feeling.
So there you have Anton LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan, telling you that it's a very selfish religion. It's based on greed, and that basically all the other religions, the message of it is you can't do anything, and then when you die, you get rewarded. The message of Satanism is you can do anything you want, and then you don't have to pay for it until you die. And, there's always a catch. In the case of the Satanists, they actually seem to be pretty upfront with what the catch is. The catch is they take your soul for eternity. It's for some a small price to pay, perhaps.
And they even have people going around Burning Man having them sign over their souls, don't they?
Yeah, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. So moving into the next slide, and this is basically how modern Satanism has evolved. And I think in a future part we'll probably delve a little bit more into the secret societies and Bohemian Grove and things like that. But just running through specifically looking at the satanic timeline, I guess, is around about the days of Queen Elizabeth, where you've got John Dee coming out as a court magician. You've got the first intelligence networks being set up. The birth of British intelligence is deeply tied to this occultism. And, this is the Book of Enoch. It's Goetia. It's summoning demons. It's pentagrams. This is full-on stuff that they've probably imported in from Hassani Sabah and the Hashassins, via the Knights Templar and the connections with Arabia and the Crusades. But anyway, that sort of led in the next century to the formation of the Hellfire Clubs. And the first Hellfire Club was called the Order of the Friars of St. Francis of Medmenham, or also known as the Mad Monks of Medmenham. And basically this guy, Sir Francis Dashwood, he had a castle out in the countryside with a whole bunch of caves. I've actually got a map of the cave system is on this slide here over to the right. So as you progress deeper into the caves, it would get darker and danker and colder and scarier, and there would be skeletons, and there would be all kinds of torture and bondage equipment. And then they would try to recreate the rites of Eleusis. So presumably they had some kind of sacrament, mushrooms, whatever, but they're doing a bunch of rituals in a cave. They're taking magical drugs. They're having orgies. It's a combination of prostitutes dressed up as nuns, but some of the more scandalous and daring of the society ladies heard about what's going on and said, well, we want to dress up as nuns and go out there and pretend to be the prostitutes. So, you know, having all of these huge orgies out there, but they're also bringing in guys like Benjamin Franklin, who was a super high-level Freemason, obviously very well known in America, but he was very well known in England and France as well. And he set up the postal service in the United States. This guy, Dashwood, set up the postal service in the UK, and they had at least 4 of the members of the Hellfire Club that were involved in espionage. They had people with the ability to break the wax seals off an envelope and then restore it so it looked like that it had never been opened. They had forgers, and they had all kinds of messenger networks. So this is even before the famous stories of the Rothschilds coming to London and profiting from having their own messenger networks that could move faster than anybody else. This was the Hellfire Club, and Benjamin Franklin seems to have got his inspiration to come to the US and set up this nationwide postal network. The other interesting thing about Franklin is that they found a lot of skeletons under his house, like dozens, right? So we have here again an intersection of the occult, and then the other one I mentioned from the Hellfire Club is the Earl of Sandwich. That the Hawaiian Islands were originally known as the Sandwich Islands, and even the sandwich that we eat, both of those things are named after this guy, the Earl of Sandwich. And so you think about how far away the United Kingdom is from Hawaii. This guy's sitting in his castle going to these orgy parties in the cave, owning Hawaii. And, I mean, how does that even come about? But you think about San Francisco is named also after this St. Francis, and it really makes me wonder, how far back does the connection of this place go to these occult networks? You know, what came first? St. Francis and his Hellfire Club, that definitely was going on about 150 years before San Francisco. The next town in towards the UK from the Sandwich Islands was named after St. Francis. So, I mean, hard to prove anything like that, but it's certainly, maybe that's one to chalk up on the coincidence meter. And then moving forward, we get Aleister Crowley, and I just read the book Secret Agent 666 by Richard Spence. I highly recommend that to your audience, Jan, and particularly the kind of things that you're talking about these lifetime agents. Here is an absolute description of a lifetime agent and the different
lifetime actor. I think you mean, right?
Yeah, lifetime actor, agent, all of it. I mean, he's working for intelligence pretty much his entire life, and pretty much everything he ever does seems to me to be at the behest of his intelligence agency handlers.
Yeah, he was very devout to the Crown of England.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, there's so many books about Crowley, and you're doing original research. I think the stuff about the Woodstock and the Maverick and the Esopus Island is very interesting. And what it seems to me, what he was doing in that period when he was there, and then there was another sort of island or lake village he was on for a little while as well. But it looks like he was consolidating the various branches of Freemasonry together with Theosophy, and that became the OTO, the Ordo Templi Orientis, and that basically became the ruling and governing structure of the Illuminati. And I think that this is building upon what Mazzini and Pike had tried to do the century prior to him, which is uniting Freemasonry together into a cohesive organization. I think Crowley really picked that up, and he also tied it into this occult revival that was happening. It had begun in sort of the mid to late 1800s in the Burned Over district, and then the Theosophy started building colonies around the world. I just recently went to one in Ascona, Switzerland, called Monte Verita. They built one at Point Loma down by San Diego. Another colony, it looks like they built at the Maverick. And so in Crowley's travels through the US, what it seems like he was doing was going to meet these various occult colonies that had been set up, uniting them together, using the new communications technologies. And Spence even speculates that he was using Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower on Montauk, Long Island, to communicate back with Theodore Royce, who was running the OTO in Germany, to basically synchronize the plans of the Illuminati.
Wow. Very interesting. I think I turned you on to that Secret Agent 666 book about a year ago. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's an outstanding book, and it's it really does add a lot of depth to the sort of things that you're talking about. How the intelligence community and the occult community are the same. It's not like, hey, there's an agent who occasionally goes to a meeting of the Golden Dawn or the OTO. No, this is it. This is the same thing.
Right. And that's the same thing with Emanuel Swedenborg as well. And you realize that in in reading the Emanuel Swedenborg Secret Agent on Earth and in Heaven, which you bought me a copy of, thank you for that. You realize in reading that the origins of novels and storytelling was as a form of encryption, and then this, and they would tell allegorical stories and then send these messages across borders, and they would have, other things encoded, and who knows how many different types of encryption that they have, and it would be really interesting to start learning the encryption aspects to start decoding everything, just as Joe Atwill has done on the typological level. And, but there's probably just so many more layers available there to understand. I mean, like, taking the sixth word of every paragraph or something like that. I mean, who knows how many different levels they've got.
And, he's sitting on an island. He's smoking peyote, mescaline, whatever. He's probably doing amphetamines, heroin, for years. He's got a lot of time to do this, to encode messages and numbers and all that kind of stuff. And if what amazes me the most about Aleister Crowley is if you look at his goals, he absolutely were achieved, and not so much in his lifetime, but after his death, with people like Timothy Leary and then Michael Aquino to come along to pick up the mantle and keep going and adapt the vision and the philosophy to the new latest technologies. And they haven't been doing it in their isolation. It's not like every generation of Crowley comes along. It's more like there's quite a large organization. I like the Combine that you and Joe have been using from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So this Combine was there before Crowley. It identified him, brought him into the fold, taught him, sent him on missions, trained him, and then gave him the authority to go do what he did with his career and have the influence he did. And then they also brought in the people behind him, like Huxley, to come along and keep the mission going. And it's still the same Combine, but the technologies that they have now are really quite phenomenal.
Right, and apparently they get the public to develop the technology for their own demise.
Yeah, and that's, I think, really where Burning Man comes in. I think where a lot of this counterculture comes in is that through the magical spell of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, people they lose sight of the forest for the trees, and they don't realize that they're actually building this technological system that's going to enslave humanity and quite possibly wipe us out. Wipe out some of us while some get to live. And all the burners will think that it's them because they took acid with the Huxleys, but it doesn't work that way.
That's funny.
Let me move quickly through the rest of this timeline here. So basically, around about World War II, we've got Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard kind of looking to take over to be the successors of Crowley, doing magical rituals. That all kind of falls apart. Hubbard steals the girl and the money and when it goes on to found Scientology. And then the OTO itself kind of goes through a lot of different some leadership challenges and things like that. But we basically see it emerging behind the scenes of rock and roll. And this is the Beatles having Aleister Crowley on their album cover. So many other musicians that are followers of Crowley, and I'll actually show in a minute some of the satanic musicians and OTO follower musicians. But it seems that as this this weaponized anthropology was being put into the electronic delivery mechanism of pop music and sent to us via high rotation FM radio and then large scale spectacles, the immersive environment, democratic surround of rock concerts, which, by the way, your last show with Hans with the photos of the Grateful Dead sound systems, is I'm with him 100%. There's no acoustic reason to stack speakers like that. there was other types of experimentation going on. But anyway, this is what they've found this. Who's they? Well, behind the scenes and the structure that seems to link everything together is this OTO Crowley satanic structure. And so I think we can say that the OTO gave birth to rock and roll, and particularly the Beatles, the Stones, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, the heavy metal, the rap music.
The Grateful Dead.
Grateful Dead, of course, yeah. Just before the Church of Satan started...
Let's not forget the Burning Man rave music.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that one a bit later. Satan was well up and running by the time Burning Man came along. But 1966 was the official birth of the Church of Satan, and Anton LaVey, he was a former lion tamer. So this came out of the world of the circus carny, you know, let's make a freak show. And he would have like a lion at his house, and people would come around to his parties and be shocked by the lion. So he seemed like he was really driven by the shock value of Satanism. And so it was a way to promote atheism, secularism, and attack on the church. You know, and in the day, in the 60s, I think, you know, it was seen that society is very oppressive. The man was a combination of the church, the military-industrial complex, the government, you know, and creativity and personal freedom was kind of stifled a bit. So Church of Satan was part of this 60s hippie, casting everything off. Whatever's come before must be wrong. We're youth. Anything old is wrong. So, you know, let's rebel. What will piss our parents off the most? You know, our parents are good religious people. They were really hated if we suddenly are Satanists. And
well, I was just going to add, and the primary attack was against the family itself, which is, you know, the foundation of life itself, and any form of structure that we have for survival that isn't reliant upon a Satanist type system of communism or socialism.
Yeah, and I think with that we're getting into really the origins of this movement, the Frankfurt School, the social engineering, the Fabian Society, yeah, the cultural debasement, the idea that we have to lower everyone and divide them in order to rule them, and that we can rule them culturally rather than through weapons. And so I definitely see the Church of Satan as another expression of that. You know, it may have begun purely independently. LaVey may have just been a kook operating on his own, but it was next to the Presidio, and within 2 or 3 years, it was very, very heavily infiltrated by the military. But basically, Michael Aquino, he saw the premiere of Rosemary's Baby, which was at the Presidio movie theater in San Francisco in, I think, 1968. And it was kind of a big deal. LaVey was there, I guess Polanski, and Aquino was very struck by LaVey and started a correspondence with him. And so while he's in Vietnam, he's like writing back and forth. And basically, Michael Aquino seems to me to be the one that's created all of the written materials of the Church of Satan. 2 books on it, and the Cloven Hoof, which was their newsletter. Occasionally LaVey contributed articles, but really most of the content seems to be Aquino's mind. So he effectively took the thing over by, you know, creating all of its documentation, its books. He came back from Vietnam supposedly with this Diabolicon, satanic manual. And, you know, he was very quickly made on the Council of Nine, which is the ruling body of the Church of Satan.
Well, the Council of Nine was Dr. Andrei Puharich, who was out of the Army's Chemical Center at Edgewood, Maryland, and he was also working up at the Esalen Institute under Aldous Huxley, and Aldous Huxley was going to his main operation to oversee his research on Amanita muscaria mushrooms.
Yep. Well, and I think you can ding the coincidence counter there again, Jan. I mean, I think that the fact that you've got Esalen involved, you know, it's the usual suspects.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Well, you know, and have you read Miles Mathis's paper on the faking of the Sharon Tate murder and all of that?
Yeah,
Roman Polanski.
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
okay,
I'm a big fan of Miles. I don't agree with everything, but
sure.
In particular, that paper I think is his best work.
I think so too. And when you look at that, and you just said that Anton LaVey was interested in shock value,
Yeah.
Now let's go back and take that over to Laurel Canyon. And, and it's highly suggested that the whole thing was staged, that the murders never happened. Miles Mathis has done a great job of presenting his evidence for that, and I'll put a link up for that. But what you're saying, if Polanski was there, that seems to me to give more credibility to Mathis's theory.
Oh, look! I may have misspoken about the dates. Then, if the premiere of the movie was after the murders and the underage case and Polanski having to flee town, I'll have to double check on that. Perhaps it was one of the other stars of the movie that was there.
Okay.
But one of the connections that Miles Mathis brings up is that the Abigail Folger was from the Folger's Coffee family, and her father was military intelligence from the Presidio, and then I believe Sharon Tate's father was also military intelligence. You also have a connection. Charles Manson was at Esalen 2 or 3 days before the murders went down, and he's also connected to a cult called the Family, which happened when Bohemian Grove was originally founded by Hearst newspapermen, and basically it was a Hearst thing. But after 20, 30 years, they kicked Hearst out around the time of the McKinley assassination. They thought he was involved. So he went and started his own cult called the Family. And I think Miles explores some of the connections. Also, the Let's Roll forums with this guy, Thunkadrone, that we spoke to. He's got some excellent stuff about these murders and looking at Kurt Cobain, where you then touch on Hank Harrison, Courtney Love's dad, who was the Grateful Dead's manager. She grew up with the Grateful Dead on their communes.
Oh, well, I might as well give it up. Joe had a conversation with him a day or two ago.
With Hank, I've heard some of his shows.
Yeah,
he's an interesting guy, and
with Hank Harrison, yeah.
He's talking, so you should try to get him on the show for sure.
Yeah, I'll have to refer you to Joe on that one. Charles Manson was also a member of the Process Church, and the Process Church was founded by Kenneth Anger with Mick Jagger, Paul McCartney, Bobby Boussalet, all of these guys connecting into that, which was also tied into MKUltra. So.
Yeah, well, we see a lot of these names from so many different angles, and the more research we do, the more angles we're connecting together.
Yeah, now it's just, it's like every few minutes they loop back to one another. Anyway, I don't want to distract you further. Go ahead.
So just to finish off on this slide, so basically one of the things they did early on is they had a satanic wedding and also a satanic funeral in San Francisco. Involving Navy personnel, and so they very quickly tried to push this thing of getting Satanism accepted into the military, and so that goes further to suggest that there was deeper involvement than LaVey operating independently. The main figures behind this whole satanic movement of the 20th century, I would say, are Aleister Crowley, Timothy Leary, and Michael Aquino. I don't know if Leary would have described himself out and out as a Satanist, but he absolutely was in his philosophies and what he is advocating.
Well, I've been an admirer of Aleister Crowley. I think that I'm carrying on much of the work that he started over 100 years ago, and I think the 60s themselves. Crowley said he was in favor of finding your own self and do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law under love. It was a very powerful statement. I'm sorry he isn't around now to appreciate the glories that he started.
Aquino had a bit of a falling out. Basically, LaVey said that the different degrees within the Church of Satan, if you pay money, you go to the higher degrees, which I think is a little bit like Scientology, maybe. Aquino was very adamant that it should be more like the Freemasons, where in order to progress to the next degree, you must complete the rituals and the initiation, which is really, a way of enforcing the control structure, it seems like to me. But anyway, he went and had a ritual, and it was the summer solstice, which they call the North Solstice, just like when Burning Man started. 1975, I think it was Santa Barbara on the beach. And Michael Aquino channeled this spirit called Lamb, which is pictured there, that looks like the grey alien. Now, this is the same spirit that supposedly Crowley was contacting when he communicated with this being Awas, who dictated the Book of the Law to him in Cairo through hypnotic automatic writing for 3 days, right?
Oh, that is hilarious. So then the CIA and U.S. Air Force and SRI, with the help of John G. Fuller, etc., go out and they start promoting this whole UFO thing, and then they tie that into the Greys, so then we can begin to see where the Greys come from this same philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, Crowley's the originator of the Greys. Then you have Jack Parsons basically trying to be Crowley's successor. He's the originator of rocketry and NASA. You know what I mean? And then you get all the Terence McKenna and the DMT coming in, and the machine elves, which also look like these grey aliens. Anyway, Michael Aquino, he doesn't say that this is the being that gave him his insight of the Temple of Set, but he was in communication with the same being that was speaking to Crowley all the way back then, who said, listen, Crowley was like, you know, he was a mage, he was really good at everything, but he didn't quite get it. You're the only one who can get it, so you now need to be my Messiah on earth to bring the word of Set into the world. And it's basically Set is like Seth as well as another pronunciation. And in the Egyptian mythology, he was the god of deserts and also the god of confusion.
Well, you know, sex and drugs in the middle of the desert causes confusion, doesn't it?
Yeah. So anyway, this was the birth of the Temple of Set, and we'll talk a little bit more about this. In Satanism, we get into the 80s, and we get the satanic panic, this ritual abuse scandal that begins at the McMartin Preschool, which is down in Southern California.
Well, not only that, but the McMartin Preschool scandal ties right here to my town. There was the place where they were flying the children to is, not far from here, and they were doing the sex rituals and sexual abuse, much of it right here in this town.
Right. Well, that's a little scary, but it seems like this stuff was going on all over the country and all over the globe. And, the United States military had 100,000 children in its daycare centers when these satanic ritual abuse scandals broke. And it broke first with the McMartin. There was no military involvement. And then it broke at the Presidio in San Francisco. And then it spread to 15 other military locations, including West Point, Panama, and West Germany.
Well, sorry, let me just interject there. Where is West Point, but right in the Pyramid Triangle there in New York, near Esopus Island with Crowley, near Woodstock, near the whole thing. I mean, that was like right in almost in the center of it all, and I'll show a map of that for everyone.
Yeah. But there's a major occult base in that triangle that you've identified. There's no question. I mean, that's connected to the burned over district as well, where so many religious movements came out of in the past, but in modern times. And I think the proximity to both West Point and the Millbrook Mansion, it can't be a coincidence. And then Crowley's there on an island in the middle of the whole triangle. But then the other thing is McMartin is close to this Theosophy colony at Point Loma. It's probably an hour, 2-hour drive. And then also the 306 Psychological Operations Battalion. They were located in LA, and they were about 5 miles down the road.
Interesting. Wow.
So we have all this ritual abuse comes out. Presidio is really implicated. We also have a major changing of the guard at the OTO, and the long-time issues of leadership are resolved. Grady McMurtry passes away, and a guy called William Breeze, he takes over on the spring equinox in 85, and he's still the head of the OTO today. So he's had an unbroken reign of like 31 years in which Burning Man has grown and flourished, the internet has grown and flourished, and psychedelics have absolutely made a comeback and grown and flourished, all under this current OTO president. So we got the first Burning Man in 86, maybe. We'll get to that. And then we have Burning Man has their very first ever theme, and they choose Satan as their first theme, which is Hellco, Heaven and Earth, the Eternal Struggle, etc. Hellco, the Inferno. And then in 1998, Burning Man, they have their theme as the Nebulous Entity, which is about a search engine sucking all of the world's data out. And that's when Google launches using the Burning Man logo on their webpage to announce that they were becoming a company. This is also the first time that Burning Man actually takes place in a pentagon with a pentagram inside the pentagon. So basically, since the launch of Google, which is very much intertwined with Burning Man, it's always been inside this giant pentagram, the world's largest satanic ritual, public. All
wow.
right. So let's move on to a brief history of Satanism. Let's have a look now specifically to rock and roll, and I'm not going to go through this whole slide. Let me just read out some of the choice ones. But this is from a site called theocculttruth.com, and they have a much longer list than this of celebrities who have made public statements saying that they have sold their soul to the devil. I've actually just picked out of that list some of the more interesting and famous names. So here we got John Lennon, I sold my soul to the devil. Kanye West, Kathy Griffin, Katy Perry, all saying the the same thing. Oprah Winfrey, I tried to empty myself and let the spirit of Set inhabit me. Johnny Depp, sometimes I feel like I'm possessed with a multitude of demons. Get thee behind me, Satan, and push me along. I'm kin to the devil. Easy-E. Elvis Presley, because I'm evil. I'll end up burning. Oh, here we go. I sold my soul to the devil. I'm going to hell. I'm headed to hell. I want the money, the women, the fortune, and the fame. That means I'll end up burning in hell, scorching in flames. Satan will be in to see me later, to see if I'm interested in being partners. Devil worshipping Satan music. Eminem. You know, and you know, it goes on and on and on. And it's, I mean, I think, you know, people understand that there's links between the music industry and Satanism, but this is pretty much, maybe not every, but some of the most major names. Michael Jackson, Lady Gaga, Kurt Cobain. They're all saying that they've sold their soul to the devil. So you really have to ask, is it possible to rise to the top of the music business without going on this trip? And I've got a perfect illustration here of, you know, one of the top-selling music artists of the decade, Miley Cyrus, right? And she got her start as Hannah Montana, and I've got a link in the notes to a video of I think it's Freeman Fly going into a Target store, just looking at all the Hannah Montana items and products, and it really is every single thing.
Start right at the beginning of the store, and yes, the Hannah Montana
trading cards.
Trading cards. Let's keep looking.
Okay.
Hannah Montana, the shining star. Well, we made it past 2 aisles.
Oh, there's more.
Food, clothing, you know, books, pencil cases, everything. Hannah Montana, Hannah Montana. So parents buy into this Disney myth, this princess programming. They get their kid the Hannah Montana everything, wanting to identify with Hannah Montana. They watch the cartoon, and the cartoon's kind of, you know, G-rated, and it's fine for them. No problem. And then the kid's 13, 14, and so's Hannah Montana, and all of a sudden, she's the ultimate party girl.
The bait and switch.
It really is. It really is. And it's a horrific tragedy. And you see so many, like an entire generation is being led behind this person and behind Justin Bieber. And look, she's probably a really nice person. She's bought the programming just like everyone else of do what thou wilt. Like Hannah, Miley, you know, you're Superwoman. You're amazing. You're the best. Millions of people love you. You can do whatever you want. If you want to have a threesome, do it. If you want to party for 3 days and don't sleep, do it. You're the best. You're the best. And if there's any consequences, all these handlers and propagandists and liars are around to smooth things over and to distance them from the actual real consequences of their actions. And the problem is that everyone else who's following them doesn't have that retinue of followers and handlers, is left to make the same mistakes as the star, but with none of the support infrastructure, and pick up the pieces on their own.
You know, Steve, I just realized one thing that we forgot to state at the beginning of this episode is for people to download it and re-upload it everywhere.
Absolutely,
so
yeah,
that, you know, just in case we get into another situation like the last two episodes. And we should have said that almost an hour ago. But anyway, everyone, please download the series with Steve Outtrim and re-upload it to your own channels and Vimeo accounts and Facebook accounts, wherever you can, and share it everywhere. All right, go ahead.
Absolutely. Thanks, John. And so moving along quickly, but just to finish on this slide, there's a picture just under the word rock. It's Paris Hilton. She's standing on a reflective surface like a fashion runway or something, which is the as above, so below Masonic message. And it's actually the front page of MQ, Mason's Quarterly magazine. So Paris Hilton is a Freemason cover girl.
Wow.
Moving on to this slide. So this is the OTO specifically. This is a list of celebrities that have been linked to the Ordo Templi Orientis. And this comes from ranker.com. So, you know, I can't guarantee the veracity of every single one of these names if they are current members of the OTO. I'm going by ranker.com. But just running through this list, oh my goodness, what a huge list of names, right? Mick Jagger, London School of Economics. David Bowie with his recent ritualized death. Russell Brand, Kanye, Madonna. How's this? George Lucas is in the OTA, filming Altamont, right? Chris Martin. The Wachowskis, which used to be the Wachowski brothers, now it's a brother and a sister, that came up with The Matrix. Grant Morrison and Alan Moore that have come up with these comics like Batman, Superman, V for Vendetta, Watchmen. You know, Iron Maiden, Stanley Kubrick, Timothy Leary, Jim Morrison, right? I mean, this is kind of the power structure of the culture industry, right? There's some enormously powerful names on there. And having a look on the little chart that I've put in as well of how significant is the music industry, well, it's a $43 billion a year business. In the US, it's $15.5 billion. And it's actually like losing about $500 million a year in the US. But that's a lot of money. That's a lot of power. That's a lot of influence. Live Nation alone promoted 23,000 nearly concerts. I think this is for 2014. And the One Direction tour sold 1.5 million tickets. So that's one band. That's how much influence they can have. And, you know, I'm not a One Direction fan, but from what I've seen, it's like a modern Beatles. The young kids that like that band scream and go nuts, and whatever One Direction says, those kids are going to do and follow and emulate. So, you know, this structure, this weaponized music industry, it's worked enormously well, and it's still working today. So let's move away from music now. Let's move back more onto my turf and the internet. And so this might take a little while to go through this slide because there's a lot of content here. But basically, there is a lot of black magic on the internet, and there's a lot of Satanism on the internet. And part of the reason for that is that, you know, programmers are rational, practical, logically minded, engineering type people. So it's easy to go to them and say, there isn't a big man in the sky. It's all just you. You're in charge. Don't worry about spirituality. Sit at your desk, do your job, and code. And they like, yeah, that appeals to their science and logical sensibilities. It's easy to buy into, so they do it. And then later they realize that there's a whole world of sex, drugs, and rock and roll that's available to them if they delve further. And rather than simply embracing atheism, they go a little bit further towards the dark side and Satanism. And in San Francisco in particular, there's an extremely strong BDSM scene, which is also tied to the LGBT world. And that's where you start to see a lot of this convergence of alternative lifestyles and the tech industry. And Burning Man has, I think, taken what was there but very underground and brought that into the mainstream. You know, at first it was going away to the desert where people could indulge in these type of practices in a slightly more public and accepting way, but still away from their normal work colleagues and friends. But as Burning Man's become more mainstream, they've actually brought these practices back into San Francisco in street fairs and things like that. in terms of the tech industry, it's been a cult from the very, very beginning. And I consider the founder of computers to be Charles Babbage, who invented the first computer. But before he ever did that, before he really did anything, when he was about 14, Charles Babbage decided that he was going to try to summon the devil. So he drew a pentagram on the floor of his room with chalk. He lit candles, and he read the Lord's Prayer backwards, standing in the middle of the pentagram. And he says that no being of the devil showed up, so therefore, it proved to, well, he said it was the only thing of the Bible he could verify, that there was a devil. He could verify it by summoning it. Because he didn't appear to summon it, then that disproved to him the Bible. I guess. Maybe the devil didn't come, but the guy did get the idea for computing. He also got the idea for the control of all of society as if we were machines, as if we were cogs in a wheel. And he wrote a book called On the Economy of Machines and Manufactures. And basically that book was the foundation for Karl Marx to write Das Kapital. Basically, most of Babbage's thinking about the efficiency of giant plan-controlled economies then fed into Marx. And Marx was also a Satanist. And I think if you look behind the scenes of those two guys, you will find very similar groups financing them to the financing of the Frankfurt School as well. So the other thing about Babbage that relates to the Satanism is that he basically took the idea of the punch card that was used for weaving looms, called a jacquard loom. It was also used for musical instruments. And you'd feed this card through the machine, it would read the holes, and it would perform mechanical calculations. And the bit that would perform the calculation was actually called a mill. And there's a very famous poem with enormous occult ties, and it's called Jerusalem by William Blake. And one of the lines in Jerusalem goes about dark satanic mills. Now, there's a possibility that he may have been alluding to Babbage, who was a contemporary of his, and his vision of the world being automated more than he was actually talking about the weaving looms and the mills were themselves in any particular way satanic. Going to the top of the slide with Apple, the very first ever Apple computer. There's a picture of it there. There's a picture of the commercial. It's $666.66. Steve Wozniak from Apple, he's a Freemason. I don't think he was at the time of picking the 666. The other occult thing they put is there's an image in the slide of Newton sitting under a tree. And there's a quote around the side of it which says, "Newton, a mind forever voyaging through strange seas of thought, alone." And so that's a bit of an occult reference as well. Let me see if I can find the reference to where that was from. But so the whole concept of Newton and the apple and the gravity, Newton discovering this principle of gravity from an apple falling on his head, that's probably a myth. But Isaac Newton was an occultist. He was a fellow of the Royal Society. He was into alchemy, doing all these kinds of experiments. And then, obviously, the story of the bite being taken out of the apple, that alludes to the fall of man and the serpent. This is the temptation of the devil, was the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. And so I have at the top right of the slide the evolution of the Apple logos. And so you can see in the beginning there was no apple, but there was Newton. They were coming from the concept of Newton. After that, it's the apple, but with the bite out of it. They're coming from the fall. It's also got the rainbow flag. So Apple's been all about the rainbow flag from the very get-go. I've also got something quite interesting here. If you look underneath the word internet in the heading, you'll see what happens if you tilt the Apple logo on its side and then mirror it as well. You see quite an interesting shape. And when I first looked at this shape, what I saw the bald eagle of Uncle Sam. I saw two eagles looking at each other and kind of exchanging like some kind of telepathic thought or something. But then I looked a little further, and it's quite clearly an alien with wings. Do you see that, Jan?
Yeah, I do. Well, now I see the wings, but I only saw the gray before. But yeah,
So the alien before, yeah, well, yeah, it's
Right.
that alien or an angel or a demon. I see the wings in there as well. But you know, that's pretty incredible, particularly when you look at the picture of the logo, and you know how it's been the same for so long. So all the way back in the early days of Apple, they wanted to put that occult imagery inside, you know, and maybe it's a coincidence. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big believer in that type of stuff.
You're not a coincidence theorist?
No.
Well, you know, we have that slide about the CIA creating the term conspiracy theories, so that must mean that they're coincidence theorists.
Yeah. Well, wherever those guys go, a lot of coincidences follow them, that's for sure. So we have Norbert Wiener, the father of cybernetics. He wrote a book called God and Golem Incorporated. And you'll see on that book, he's got the famous all-seeing eye is sitting right there on the book, right? This is like 1946 or whatever. He's writing this book, obviously into the occult. The concept of the golem goes back to the Kabbalah, I believe, and Frankenstein's monster was also this golem story that they're creating an artificial creature and they're giving it life, bringing it to reality, and then it's going out into the world to do their bidding. So this comes back to the syntheism, the digital god, and the internet is a golem, and that's really what Wiener's point is. I've skimmed through the book. That seems to me to be the main point that he's making, is that we're now in the position of creating these electronic servants to do our bidding, and that makes us potentially to be gods ourselves because we can create a god. Some of the language on the internet, when you think about it from the point of view of mind control, of programming, subconscious messaging, and black magic, is really, I think, quite interesting and quite telling. So submit, you know, always on the internet we're pressing submit, we're clicking submit, and you know, in modern internet it's been cleaned up a little bit, so you don't see that word on a button. You might see okay or yes more frequently, but the underlying command in the structure of the internet is still submit. That's every single message that you are sending to a server, you are submitting your form. And so we're constantly submitting before the machine. There's a control key, right? That's telling us all the time we're not in control. The keyboard's in control. The computer's in control. I'm just constantly pressing control, control, control. Control, Alt, Delete. That's what we got to do when the computer stops working. You know, it's like, even the idea of a mouse, you know, what's a mouse? A mouse is a thing that you do experiments on if you're, you know, the Stanford Research Institute. And it suggests something that's meek, it's subhuman, you know. We're controlling this little mouse. So the computer, it can't do anything scary to it because it's just this cute little mouse, you know. Oh, we're afraid of the computer. Oh, you're afraid of a mouse? Oh, just use it, right? You get into the concept of hacking, to hack. And the slash key, / /, you know, these are quite violent words. Hit, you know, you hit keys, you punch cards, you know. These are warlike, violent military metaphors that are subconsciously drummed into all of humanity all the time when we're using it. This one, look, I've put this slide in here. It's a little bit of a joke. I don't know if it's true or not. Some people say that all these acronyms on the internet, this is what they mean. I don't know. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. LOL means Lucifer, our Lord. So every time you're using that, that's what you're secretly saying. YOLO, youth obeying Lucifer's orders. Swag, Satan's wishes are granted. Ruffle, rise our father Lucifer. BRB, Beelzebub rules below. WTF, worship the fallen. Now, you know, how does someone come up that WTF is what the fuck, or worship the fallen? And who's to even say? But just something to think about. Then we get into this whole concept that's the internet's full of trolls. Well, who came up with that? Who decided this is the appropriate metaphor? Trolls. It sounds like Dungeons and Dragons and Fantasyland, and it, you know, leads down to demons. And for the non-technical people, you probably never come across a demon, but a lot of the things that run on servers on the internet, like mail servers and things like that, these processes are called demons. And they're called demons after Wiener's use of the word golem, that's kind of what these programmers were envisaging, that little creatures that they would summon out of cyberspace to come and just sit there for all eternity obeying their commands.
Oh my God! Was it FreeBSD or?
Yeah. with the Linux daemon, yeah.
With the Linux daemon, yeah. And then FreeBSD became Mac OS X, and then that also became Unix, which became Linux. And then for a while, Linux even had the penguin with the devil's horns.
Yeah, and certainly a lot of flavors. The other thing is, if you watch that TV show Silicon Valley, with Mike Judge, the Beavis and Butthead guy, absolutely brilliant show. It's hilarious, but they really nail how Silicon Valley is. They really got it right. And one of the main characters is a Satanist. He's got a tattoo of an inverted cross and everything.
Wow, Pied Piper sounds like a great place to work.
Oh yeah, it is. Pied Piper is the best, right?
Oh my God, every day feels like I've died and gone to hell.
I'm sorry?
He's a Satanist, so it's good.
Oh, fun.
He's exactly like what these guys are. You know, the programming world is full of these Satanists. They dress the same, they talk the same, they believe the same. And what do you know? So many of them, they love to take LSD. They love to listen to the Grateful Dead. You know, it doesn't mean that any deadhead is evil, but it also doesn't mean that every Satanist is evil. You just need to look at where people are being led, you know, down the path with this. And it's to a path of belief in nothing. There is no religion. There is no magic. It makes it easy for those that do have command of magic to control you.
Right.
So the letter V or Vav, apparently in Hebrew, is the number 6. It represents the nail. And so WWW or VV, that actually is 666. So every time we're doing WWW, we're doing 666. Also in the barcode, you'll see at the bottom right there, I've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you see that the number 6 is in blue, and above it there's double lines in blue. So that particular double line code there, that's what a 6 looks like in barcodes. And every single barcode you ever see, it has on the front of it, on the end of it, and in the middle of it, where those red lines are, 666. Every single one. I've got to tell you, when I first heard about this, I thought that's got to be crap. I looked it up. It's true. It's true. So, you know, this is talk about the mark of the beast. It's called a universal. And
everybody's always called the UPC code the mark of the beast, and it actually is 666. Wow.
Then we have the demonstration or the demonstration. I mean, where did that word come from? Why is it anything to do with a demon? The idea of a gateway, we're connecting to internet gateways all the time. A gateway is a very occult term. Like that's where you cross between spiritual realms. Is a gateway. An avatar.
Like gateway computers that shut down about 10 years ago.
I think they had an occult logo, if I remember right, as well.
Well, it was a cow, actually.
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
Maybe that had to do with what was the cow's name? I forget. I mean, that could very well be ancient worship too, for that matter.
Yeah. And then you have the avatar, and avatar comes from Sanskrit, I think, and it's the concept of a god coming down to this plane to take the form of a human or an animal to incarnate on the plane. We mirror our servers. Mirroring is an occult concept. Even the way that we use the term mirror to have 2 copies of one server is related to the occult sense of the term mirror. These are some that I've come up with. You know, your mileage may vary on these, but an image could easily be read as iMage. Facebook could be a Fey spook, like the fairy domain. Delete could be the elite. You know, just subconscious reinforcement all the time. You've got the computer terminal. Terminal is obviously making you think of death, and if you don't have the computer, if your computer's off, you're dead. You can't do your job. You're dead to the world. The whole concept of a net, you know, I think this is by no coincidence that this weaponized technology from the Pentagon is called internet. It's a giant electronic net that they cast across the entire world to encapsulate and incorporate every person and corporation in the world. All the pieces of information in the world are caught inside this net. And once they'd designed a perfect net to trap the electronic data, what they needed is they needed people to come inside it to be caught within it. And so they came up with a thing called the web. And the difference between the web and the net is stickiness. And when a website has stickiness, it means people come and they use it and they keep coming back. They get caught in the web. And so then we also have, further to that metaphor, spiders and crawlers. I think in a future episode we'll talk about the secret societies in Bohemian Grove a bit more, but their theme is weaving spiders come not here. And apparently the weaving spiders are fine because they're not poisonous. It's the ones that don't make perfect webs are poisonous. So, that's trying to say that Bohemian Grove is full of poisonous spiders. But the internet's full of poisonous spiders as well, trolls. Now we get to these symbols, and we use these symbols every day, but they weren't really used by people very much at all before the internet. The hashtag, that symbol is actually called an octothorpe, and in some places they call it the pound key. In some places they call it the hash key. And that could be some interesting language problems when they say press the hash key. They're like, what? You guys have a key for hash? But why is it called, what is the octothorpe? Why was it called hash in the first place? Are they trying to make us think of hash? It was actually named by Bell Laboratories, and the symbol was used in early computing and in recording chess games as a symbol of checkmate. So every time you're using that hashtag symbol, you're using the checkmate symbol. It's also very reminiscent of military stripes, which either go horizontally or vertically and have the double bar. The next one we get is what we all know as the @ symbol, but the technical name for that symbol is actually amphora, and it's somewhat reminiscent of the all-seeing eye, of the golden ratio groups of spirals with the shape that's reflected in the brain and the hippocampus as well. You've got the enter key. You enter in an agreement. You enter into Plato's cave. It also kind of suggests inter, which is to do with the dead and the realm of the dead. Cancel.
You know what? Looking up amphora, it's a type of container. And they show a bunch of Greek pottery and stuff, so it's a container. Interesting.
Yep, a vessel like Pandora's box.
Right.
Pandora's box was actually an amphora in the original telling of the story.
Wow.
And then cancel your soul, cancel, quite pretty close when you're hitting that all the time. Return. Return is just constantly suggesting to you that everything belongs to somebody else. There's also, the hero's journey. There's occult elements to the concept of return, even return from multiple planes, from astral traveling or whatever. Then there's the whole idea that a screen is not just for display, where you see something. The traditional use of the word screen is it's actually something that obscures something that's behind it. So every time you're looking at a screen, there's a lot behind it looking at you. What is it? You're really not aware of it. And then just to finish up on this slide is the Gmail logo, which looks almost identically to the Royal Arch Masonry apron. All right, so we've got some Satanism on the internet. Let's move forward now. We'll come back to the Presidio base. And we get Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Michael Aquino, early member and board member of Church of Satan, founder of the Temple of Set. So he did a show with Sean Stone on Buzzsaw. I would recommend people to watch the interview. Very, very interesting guy. And so I asked him in the comments on YouTube about his involvement in intelligence, because there's some talk on the internet that this guy is now a general in the NSA. And so he's answered that here. The NSA doesn't have generals, which is true, and that he retired from military intelligence in 2006, which is also true as far as I can tell. One point he made that's going to be quite relevant to our discussion later on is that psy-op was a branch and material specialist. So it doesn't matter if you sign on for Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, you can be in psy-ops. Psy-ops is all the, everyone coming together to plan how to take over people's minds. He was also involved with CIA, NRO, USI, ICA, but not NSA. This is a human guy, and then he moved on to space intelligence. He's also a baron in Scotland.
Really?
He's
Wow.
part of Clan Campbell. He's involved in 22 different charities with a focus on animal welfare. His mother was Betty Ford, Dr. Betty Ford, and I'm pretty sure it's not that Betty Ford, but she was an early female genius at Stanford. Lewis Terman was her mentor, and she was actually one of the founders of KPFA-FM in Berkeley that you and Hans covered in.
Yeah, which is, of course, Pacifica Radio.
Yeah, so his mom was a founder of Pacifica Radio. He went to school in Santa Barbara. He had quite a successful career outside of the military as well. He was an investment banker, political science professor. And then his current wife, Lilith Sinclair, she ran the New York
Lilith.
the Church of Satan. Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't help but laugh at the Lilith. That's good.
So he was involved in psychological operations in Vietnam, where they would have big speakers on helicopters, and they would play blood-curdling screams and the sounds of the dead and things, trying to freak out the locals and terrorize them. Apparently, it didn't work that well because they could identify the source of the sound, and it made it easier for them to shoot down the helicopters. So it wasn't particularly popular with the chopper pilots. There's some discussion he was involved with the Phoenix military intelligence program in Vietnam as well, but certainly he was doing psy-op over there. He's a special forces guy, and he was also the deputy director of reserve training at the Presidio. He was responsible for adding Satanism, the Temple of Set, Wicca, and paganism to the military's official religions. And so what that means is if you're a God-fearing Baptist preacher in the army, you have to learn all about the religion of Satanism, and you have to be prepared to administer satanic rites to a fallen soldier if that's what their religion is. So in a similar way that voting for gay marriage, which everyone probably thinks is pretty reasonable, has suddenly led to all these debates on men going into women's bathrooms, saying, hey, we should allow Satanism into the military, suddenly meant every single preacher in the military had to become a preacher of Satanism. So kind of a clever little mind trick in there in a way. So this guy's doing big black magic rituals on the North Solstice, the June solstice, which is when Burning Man started at the Presidio. There's the tunnels and gun batteries around the Presidio. There's a lot of evidence of satanic rituals in them. There's pentagrams, there's candelabras and paintings of Satan and all kinds of things. There's no evidence linking Aquino to these things, but you've got military Satanists at the military base, and you've got military bunkers full of satanic writing. You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to connect these dots. This guy did a ritual in 1983. He was seconded to NATO, and he went to Wewelsburg Castle, which is where Heinrich Himmler, who was the head of the SS and the Anna Nerby, who was basically Hitler's #1 occult guy, he had his magical chamber in Wewelsburg Castle, and he would go and do magic rituals there. And so Aquino convinced the museum warden to let him do a ritual in the chamber. And he did a ritual specifically to explore and open up the laboratory to the gateway of the soul. That was the purpose of the ritual in 1983.
On this altar is one of a number of daggers, which we may use in our rituals. This one happened to belong to the commanding general of the most elite unit of Germany's infamous SS, which was concerned with black magic and occultism research in general. Anything that it could find that had to do with the origins of the human race, destiny of humanity.
The perverted view of the occult held by Heinrich Himmler was of an evil magic that could help create a new master race. Wewelsburg Castle is where he performed his ceremonies.
I have been to the Wewelsburg, which still preserves Heinrich Himmler's ritual chambers to this day, and have conducted a black magical ritual in the so-called Hall of the Dead, beneath the Wavelsberg.
And then he did something, we're not sure what it was, but some project from 1984 to 1994, which he got a commendation medal from the Army for. So it possibly was he did this massive black magic ritual, and then in 1984 launched a 10-year project that was highly successful for the military, or it could be just a complete coincidence. But you know, there's not that many serving military intelligence officers who get to go to Nazi magic chambers and do rituals and then get awards from the government afterwards. Now, Aquino got drawn into the Presidio Daycare Center, and if you go to burners.me, there's some stories there at the moment. You can read some more about that. I'm not saying one way or the other if the guy was involved, but he was very, very thoroughly investigated by FBI, cops, and military intelligence, and he was never charged. He was titled with the Army, and he appealed. He said, look, you haven't proven I've done anything, so remove the charges from me. And the Army said, no, we've still got enough evidence that we suspect you of something. And then he appealed that twice and lost both of those appeals. So the title remains on his record, and it seems like may well have had an effect on his career. Whether that was from political pressure or whether he's actually guilty of these crimes, who's to say? But, you know, certainly on the internet he's held guilty. There's something where I don't know if someone can honestly, for 30 years, none of these 500 supposed abused kids have come forward. He's still held. He absolutely must be guilty when he's never had a trial. At some point, maybe people should give him the benefit of the doubt, look at both sides of this and make up their own minds. You know, I have my opinion, and I'm not going to say either way, but this is a decorated veteran, and, you know, he did say this was a scam, and it did seem to happen at a time when it was the #1 media story in America, all this Satanism going on. And I believe the Satanism was going on at the Presidio. You know, there was evidence that kids were abused. I believe it's also really going on today. But why isn't it sweeping Oprah and Geraldo and Fox News and everything like it was in the 80s? What's different? Something's different. Anyway, this is a pretty big figure, Aquino. I've done a FOIA request for his military records, and everything he says checks out, which is refreshing. But you see
I know what you're referring to.
In his dates of service, there's active and inactive, active and inactive. So basically, he's passing in and out of being active duty and going to Army Reserve. So he could go be an investment banker, but he's still working for the Army Reserves. There's also some decorations there. He's got the Bronze Star, Air Medal, Army Commendation Medal. He got a Cross of Gallantry in Vietnam. So this is an accomplished guy in the military. Here's from some of his citations, which are quite interesting. The one at the bottom right, the Department of the Army Commendation Medal, that's stamped February 81. So it's the project he was doing that he got the commendation for. He was not in the Army. He was an investment banker in the Army Reserves when he did that particular project. There's another one there from Vietnam. And then this with the red underlying is the one I'm talking about for the 10 years. It overlaps with the dates of Burning Man and the launch of the internet. Now, this guy, Aquino, very much saw himself following, and he's still alive, by the way, saw himself following in Crowley's footsteps. So this is from a book called Lucifer Dethroned. It says, it was to the mantle of Aleister Crowley that Michael Aquino seemed to aspire. While LaVey used some of Crowley's concepts and materials as they suited him, Aquino took Crowley and his gospel quite seriously. In fact, Aquino saw his mission as to destroy the influence of conventional religion in human affairs. Not so much that we want everyone to be converted to Satanism as an institutional religion, but that we want to unravel the web of fear and superstition that has perpetuated all formal beliefs. Satanism should not be just another religion, it should be an unreligion. So this is very specific, the attack on religion. They are trying to attack religion. And the basis, that their justification for doing it is that religion is based on fear. If you sin, if you break the rules, God will punish you. That's a fear-based system. That's wrong. Our system, do what thou wilt. You can do anything. There's no punishment. You get rewarded instantly. Our system is superior, right? So get rid of all religion and follow our system. But it is a religion in itself. It's the religion of no religion. And that's what they've called for the New World Order to have. and unreligion. And, that's what Burning Man positions itself as well. But anyway, so here's another follower of Crowley. And the Temple of Set had a lot of military people in it. You had Aquino's brother-in-law, Bill Butch. He was a naval commander. And you had Captains Mann and Browning from military intelligence. Dennis Mann was a reserve army major in intelligence. So although this group was small, it was very high-ranking military people and psy-ops people within it. Now, this is from Alex Constantine's book. He's written quite a bit about this topic, and he quotes a guy called Major Jack Downing, who was working alongside the CIA as a consultant in psy-ops and a specialist in human ecology, a way of pinning down the psyche and behaviors of human beings in different environments. And it's the observational principles of anthropologists and psychologists alongside more manipulative techniques of advertisers, social engineers, and golden age brainwashers. Now, from everything we've been studying, absolutely the government was doing that. I mean, that's MK Ultra right there. I mean, there's no question that the government was, interested in all of those type of fields. This guy's saying he was running it in Vietnam, and then at the time of my leaving, my role as human ecology expert was taken up by another officer, a Michael Aquino, who was trying out these mind control principles in the context of Anton LaVey's church. So maybe they tried this stuff in Vietnam, but they came back and they were doing it on the domestic population by people that chose to opt into the rituals, the experiments, whatever, in the context of this occult church. So here's one of the philosophies, and this is from the book The Church of Satan. So it's actually written by Michael Aquino. But he's saying, look, as turgid as they were, the life after death religions made the misery of life a little less miserable by holding out the hope of salvation and redemption in the afterworld. Maybe it's a false promise, but it's comforting. And they can't expose it as a lie until it's too late. But what he's saying is that basically civilization gave us all longer, healthier, more affluent lives. We should have been happier, but the hold of the great religions, that would have weakened their hold. So they told man that he should feel guilty for enjoying himself because you're only supposed to enjoy yourself after death. And so this idiotic proposition was believed across the entire range of modern civilization. Some denied it, some exploited it. On the whole, it prevailed. And then most people just gave up their grip on it. So Anton LaVey did not start this revolution, nor did he lead it in a demagogic sense, but he articulated it far more succinctly and essentially than anyone else had managed to do. In magical terminology, he uttered a word, indulgence, which shattered all philosophies and theologies not incorporating this principle. And thereby he became a magus, a magus. So the magical title of magus properly identifies those magicians of history who've conceptualized and defined successive stages of mankind's non-natural evolution. So what Aquino is arguing here is that by LaVey saying, listen, I've got indulgence and the other religions can't give that to you, he dissolved the power of other religions. And so that's why the do what thou wilt crowd adopted the Church of Satan. And there's another comment here. At its most elemental level, sacrifice implies the giving up of something precious to oneself in return for some other benefit or favor. Human beings being the selfish creatures they are, it's always seemed preferable to give up something precious to others in order to obtain the expected benefit. So they still have this concept of sacrifice, but they also have this concept of indulgence, do whatever you want. Now, for Aquino, his word that he uttered that made him a magus was mind war. And in 1980, he came up with this paper, which was later turned into a book. He was working with the guy pictured in the middle on the right there, Paul Vallely. At the time, he was a colonel. He's now a major general, and he'll be familiar to people as the Fox News military analyst. He appears on Fox News all the time. But basically, he and Aquino wrote this paper called Mind War. And I mean, it's not, they didn't invent psychological operations, but they certainly stated the entire goal of warfare in quite new terms. And in the last episode, we talked about how after Vietnam, in an environment of low morale, the Esalen kind of ideas of hippification and be all you can be in the new age and the super soldier like that, they caught on with the army, and they were prepared to try some new thinking. Well, this mind war idea also caught on as well, and the idea is that we don't have to defeat the enemy with bullets and bombs. We just have to win the hearts and minds. And so what can we do to fast-track winning of the hearts and minds? And this philosophy was absolutely aligned to Jim Channon and the 1st Earth Battalion. I believe that they both were developed from the same Task Force Delta think tank. It's quite hard to get information about a lot of this stuff because it was within the military. But let me read to you some of the things from Mind War. The definition of it is it's a permanent state of strategic psychological warfare against the populations of friend and foe nations alike. So the first thing is the military is at war with everyone, including its own civilians. And they could sell this because their argument of why they lost Vietnam was people back home were protesting against the war, and they lost the hearts and minds of the American people, so the war couldn't continue. So now mind war is how do we get everyone's hearts and minds at once? And in this paper, they actually describe having 24-hour news networks that would be showing news constantly, and if any news happened in the world, they would cut instantly to a live satellite feed from a mobile truck that's showing that news happening. And these news reporters would actually be embedded with military units so that from frontline troops, people would be getting the news reports of the war, but of course that would be completely sanitized and streamlined by the military. Now this is outlined in this paper in 1980. That became CNN, that became Fox News, multi-billion-dollar businesses, but also massive tools of propaganda control for the ruling oligarchy. So, this guy has kind of come up with this idea that was adopted and became incredibly successful. Vallely's gone on from writing the paper to being the guy actually on the Fox News delivering it.
Wow.
I won't read this whole thing out, but I do recommend people to get the paper. It's an interesting concept. The essential idea is that by the methodical application of science, psychology, and esoteric arts of antiquity, mind war assumes, like the ancients, that the ultimate aspiration of mankind is to the good. But, just like the Manhattan Project, which opened a genie's bottle, mind war could be misused with even more ominous consequences. So, hey, it's not my fault inventing this thing and sharing it with the military, but if my boss says, go and mind control the youth of today, yeah, I'm going to do it. It wasn't me. But basically, the book's looking at three branches of special operations: psychological operations, special forces, and civil affairs. And he says there are some purely natural conditions under which minds may become more or less receptive to ideas. And mind war should take full advantage of such phenomena as atmospheric electromagnetic activity, air ionization, and extremely low frequency waves. So
that sounds like HARP, doesn't it?
Well, it sounds like HARP, but also, they need a place where they can do experiments with, audible and inaudible waves sent to people to see if it can mind control them. Where are they going to do that? Right?
Grateful Dead concert.
Yeah, that would be a great one. And then the Burning Man ticket, which says they voluntarily assume the risk of serious injury or even death by participating, and everyone's a participant, is a perfect opt-in contract. So anyway, the description of this kind of dominance of not just the mind, but the environment the mind is within, it builds upon the concepts of Bauhaus and the democratic surround that we talked about earlier, how like in a shopping mall you're bombarded with these sales messages. At a Dead concert or at Burning Man, you are immersed in these messages. The medium is the message. You're getting it at all times. But he's also saying about the suggestibility. We use chemicals to make them more suggestible. We spray particles in the air and we excite them with electromagnetic radiation so we can make people more compliant and suggestible. We put stuff in the water supply. And then we send subliminal messages into them, And I mean, they have proved that they can send certain frequencies. If they play the exact right tone, it will make people, like an entire dance floor of people, lose control of their bowels at the same time. And so the military is doing a lot of work into this type of acoustic and electronic weaponry. And Michael Aquino is laying down the foundation intellectually of, first of all, the moral, philosophical, ethical justification for using it, and secondly, the technical aspects of how do we get people into the right state of suggestibility?
So the future of warfare is to get everyone to shit themselves at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, we might come back a bit later on and talk about some of those different aspects of psychotronics, because there's a lot of it, and our friends at SRI and the Presidio were doing a lot of experimentation with it. So the Temple of Set, from the very early days, they had a reading list. If you wanted to progress through the various layers, you had to go through the reading list. And this particular reading list section is artificial intelligence and cybernetics. So very, very early on, this is before most people have ever seen a computer, they're requiring their members to read about artificial intelligence and cybernetics. Everyone knows that computers and computer science are continuing to mushroom, but few really know just how much and with what impact. The reality is astonishing in some ways and overblown in others. Industrialized civilizations of the planet are now so dependent upon computerized systems of commerce and communication that they're close to being at the mercy of the computer scientists whose responsibility it is to make the things work. And incidentally, to set parameters for human enterprise by taking computer design in one direction or another. Obviously, a computer-dominated society is hyper-efficient in some ways, hyper-vulnerable in others. At the very least, the magician must know enough about the field so that he is sensitive to the ways in which it influences him and the ways in which he may use it to influence others. So the magicians in the Temple of Set are learning everything about computers and how to use it to influence and control other people to achieve their will. And this is at the core of the internet. Here's a great graphic. Where this was specifically is unknown. It's been circulated around the internet, and it's some kind of occult cybernetics artwork that someone has had commissioned and beat out.
It's a sigil, it looks like.
Yeah, yeah. So all kinds of occult
and
symbols.
It's got Ludens. Wow. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it looks
it's got
like
the Bohemian Grove owl at the top.
It looks like it could even be used for encryption of some sort. I'd have to.
Yeah, there may well be encrypted messages in that. Yeah. So going sweeping back from Temple of Set to the Church of Satan, and I think we've got about 3 more slides after this one for tonight. So this is Anton LaVey writing. Why do I prefer androids to many real humans? Androids can be created, programmed, and utilized exactly according to the master's whims. They require no energy-consuming interaction in order to solve a non-existing ego. Yet even the semblance of an ego can be built into an android via actions and words, but always according to the master's requirements. They can be shelved when they grow tiresome, brought back out when needed, modified in appearance, and destroyed without moral conscience. They're ideal companions. They never talk back unless you want them to, yet you can insult them to your heart's content. Insofar as work is concerned, that can be performed by either non-humanoid machines or humans of limited intelligence operating machines of greater intelligence. So this is how the Satanists think about innovation. Wouldn't it be great if I had a robot, because I could insult it, because my heart would be really content if I could insult something.
Wow. And that's the Epsilons and Huxley's Brave New World right there.
Well, I mean, absolutely it is. And it's also the Hindu caste system. And, you know, it's...
Which is I mean, Huxley's Brave New World is the Western analog of the Hindu caste system.
Yeah. But I think this, you know, it's worth looking at this slide a couple of times, because even for myself, there's so much depth contained here in this concept. And really what scares me the most about it is what these guys are trying to do now is they're trying to say that a self-driving car has to have a license. And they're trying to say that robots are going to get a social security number and pay tax. And robots are going to get a cell phone account. They need to communicate, so they need to get a Verizon account, right? And so, okay, robots are kind of like people. They kind of have rights like people. But very quickly, the Satanists are going to be like, well, I don't really want a person to do that job because they might talk back. So I'm just going to get a robot to do that job. And then the Satanists are like, don't worry. You know, you're a Superman because you're with Church of Satan and you're making yourself better than all these other poor fools that believe in a man in the sky or whatever. They'll be the ones working for the robots, and you'll be able to live this life of indulgence and decadence doing what thou wilt. In fact, you should probably go and, you know, write some code to enslave mankind and spy on everyone's emails and take some LSD, you know. But you know, people are buying this, and this is written in the 1970s, yeah. But people are buying this today, and even more so today. And they're working for Google and Facebook, building these systems, heralding the rise of the robots. You know, look, I got a Tesla. It drives itself. It's awesome. I love it. You know, but I want to just put my kids in it and trust it to take them to school and come back. You know,
Google. What is it? Do no evil or something like that?
Well, I mean, they began with they used to say do no evil, and then they changed it to don't be evil. And then it was just getting too hard for them to comply with it. They had to drop it entirely. No, I mean, think about, like, that's a true story. So what are they doing that's so evil? And Google's operating system, it's called Android, right? Google is building this massive artificial intelligence. We're all sensors feeding data, but so are all of our devices. There are very quickly going to be more devices than people on the network, and the robots are going to be paying tax. And when the robots start paying more tax than the people, and the people need welfare, but the robots need less welfare, the government's going to start to make some tough decisions.
Absolutely. Well, and that's always been the goal. Yeah, it says in October 2015, the Don't Be Evil motto was replaced with the Alphabet Corporate Code of Conduct by the phrase, do the right thing. It almost sounds like, I mean, why didn't they just say, do what thou wilt, you know?
Yeah, they should. And I mean, it's called Alphabet, you know. It's CIA, NSA, NRO, you know, it's called Alphabet. So anyway, moving on with the Church of Satan. So the Church of Satan had this big master plan, right? The church cannot sustain itself on the altruism and loyal dedication of its present Superman followers. In due time, after conditioning has been achieved and the movement has grown vast, human potential can be categorized into shouters, money donors, leaders, legitimacy providers, menial volunteers, so on, just as past religions which have dealt with human animals have done. Each person's respective value can then be extracted, and the temples and pleasure domes can be built according to our plans. Let me just pause it there to say that this is basically describing how the Burning Man organization works today. Everything is built on volunteers. And what they do as an organization is they sift through the different volunteers and work out what category they want them to be in. Like, okay, you can be a donor, give us money. You can go chase the donors, go get the money off them. You can build stuff. Okay, we'll pay you a bit of money to go out and live in a shipping container in the desert for 3 months and build the big statues. You know, you can go on cleanup crew. You can be a volunteer on cleanup crew. And then the Burning Man organization can assess that entire group of burners, a subset of the tech community of the day, and work out who's good, who's bad, who do they want to promote, who do they want to bring into further and higher roles in the church. Now, the other thing that I want to highlight here is that they're talking about these temples and pleasure domes being built according to their plans. And in fact, I'll bring that up again in the next one. But the dome that's Buckminster Fuller, right? The geodesic dome. He's very big with the whole Esalen crew. Around the time the Church of Satan being founded, Stuart Brand and the Whole Earth Catalogue is all about Buckminster Fuller and these domes. So is it a coincidence that they've said pleasure domes? I'm also watching the show Marco Polo on Netflix, which is great.
Yeah, I just finished it.
Yeah, and there's Kubla Khan in Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure dome decree. I think that's Coleridge. So maybe they're referring to the Coleridge, maybe they're referring to the Fuller Dome, and then the temple as well. The Church of Satan, isn't it funny given that, you know, they don't believe in any demonic god or higher being or anything, they still need to build temples, right? They still need you to give money for them to build a temple.
Well, you know, you have to create this temple that everybody looks at in awe and then wants to worship, so...
Yeah.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to get their power if they couldn't get the batteries to feed the system.
Yep. And I might have actually, you reminded me, I missed to mention on one of the Aquino slides there, I've got a cover page of the Temple of Set, and it's got the black Kaaba stone from 2001: A Space Odyssey is like right there on the cover of their webpage. Anyway, coming back to this slide, the four principal devils are Leviathan, representing the sea, Lucifer, the lord of the air or the bearer of light, which could be interpreted to be the internet, Belial, the lord of the earth, and Satan, lord of the fire. So here we have another link, Burning Man, Satan, lord of the fire, another coincidence. One of the main goals of the Church of Satan is to build pleasure domes in which members of the church can indulge themselves in their personal desires. By having a place to go where they can release their desires, the members can lead an unfrustrated life in the everyday world. A pleasure dome would consist of many different rooms and recreational facilities for the purpose of fulfilling each member's personal desires. So there's your temporary autonomous zone, basically, right? You're in your own little room, your own little zone, in your dome. No one can see what's going on, who you're in there with. The normal rules don't apply. You're away from civilization. Do what thou wilt. You know, building these zones where things can happen that aren't permitted by the normal rules. That is the fundamental vision of the Church of Satan. Right? So the other quote I have here is not so much about the Church of Satan. I've just sort of stuck it in because I had some room. But there's a general quote about Michael Aquino when he was with the 306 Psychological Operations Battalion in the 70s. The 306 seemed to attract every mad scientist, character actor, and miscellaneous weirdo in the Los Angeles area. One group of officers, dearly beloved by the battalion, decked out their office on the post as a medieval chamber, complete with candelabra, wine bottles, sumptuous rugs, and antique oak furniture. They were served wine by nude wenches whose photographs appeared charmingly on the walls. Often these gallants, who had forsaken ordinary US Army uniforms for custom-designed ones of Ruritarian splendor, would conduct impromptu duels with fencing sabres. It was not uncommon for the battalion staff to be holding a briefing for the commander, a World War II bomber pilot, while the clash of steel was heard through the window. So these psy-ops guys in the 70s in LA, they're making custom fancy uniforms. Ruritarian is like, sort of looks military, but with like a romantic, harking back to yesteryear element to it. And if you go to Burning Man, you will see a lot of these Ruritarian uniforms going on there. That's sort of part of it. We don't just want to dress like we're desert soldiers. We want to dress like we're in Lawrence of Arabia desert soldiers.
Well, now we know how to identify some of them, at least at Burning Man.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you see them, they're in a military uniform, but it's got like a scarf around them, a cravat or something, I'd instantly be a little bit cautious. And these guys have got these nude wenches and stuff. I mean, they're playing dress-ups, and they're planning how to run the entire world by psychologically manipulating people, propaganda, lies, and trolls, you know. It's not a huge shift to go from the activities down there to Burning Man and the dress-ups up there. All right. Of LaVey's many radical ideas, none seems as radical as his proposal that Satanists create and dwell in an artificial world and society of their own designs. Here he suggests a new view of cosmology, one that is at once material and a product of the human imagination. The fourth point of LaVey's five-point program of pentagonal revisionism he's revising the Pentagon, is the design and manufacture of androids to act as artificial human companions or slaves. The fifth point of the program extends this idea to total environments. These are to be privately owned and operated communities or environments that totally conform to the aesthetic wishes of those living or visiting there. In these total environments, the Satanist would be free from a kind of aesthetic pollution with which he's usually constantly bombarded, much to the detriment of his ability to indulge his desires. So the fourth point of the Church of Satan is we're going to make androids because they follow orders better and we can abuse them. The fifth point is we're going to make temporary autonomous zones where we don't have to have any visual pollution of things we don't want to see. And one of the biggest principles of Burning Man is this idea of decommodification, that they didn't want to be polluted by seeing the branding of the outside world. It was an affront to their aesthetic sensibilities. Therefore, they wanted to create their own space where they did not have to see such things. Again, this is a fundamental vision of the Church of Satan, and it's a fundamental foundational element of what Burning Man is. In fact, one of the things that makes Burning Man truly unique compared to other parties in the world is this cultured control over the aesthetic environment. You want to say something?
No.
Okay. So just to finish off here then, Humanity itself is divided into two groups: the satanic nonconformists, who indulge their genuinely individualized desires, and the rubes, who conform overtly or covertly to the herd mentalities of religion, science, politics, fashion, the media, and so forth. The self-aware Satanist is virtually always in a position to prey upon the rubes, the dupes of the mass mentality. And so this is a very telling look in how these Satanists think, right? Basically, if you're a Satanist, you don't conform to the man, you do what thou wilt. And so therefore you're superior, you're intellectually superior because you're not constrained in making choices by these silly morals. And anyone that does have morals is inferior to you because they are using emotion to drive intellectual thought. And then go ahead.
So then why are they in an organization like the military?
Yeah, where they have to conform to everything, exactly. And maybe it's their chance, you know, they say work hard, play hard. Maybe they work hard in the military following orders all day, and then on the weekends they take a few goats out to you know, make them feel free again. Who knows with these people? But you know, their belief in Satanism, to me, it isn't superior to somebody believing in God. And I think, forget about whether you identify with a particular religious faith or not, the general idea of a family unit is what's supported by most religions. That the purpose of why we're here in life is, you know, is to breed, to procreate, and to teach and to pass our wisdom and values down onto others and to share it with the world. And that's the thing that's under attack from these Satanists and from these atheists. And that's the thing that the counterculture really seems to be a weapon that's targeted against, is the family unit. And
absolutely, 100%.
You know, sex is a lot of fun. And here's these drugs, and sex will be even more fun if you have it on these drugs. So why don't you just have all the drugs you want and all the sex you want, and that's totally fine. Look, it sounds great on paper. In theory, that sounds really great. The reality of it is that when you get into those intimate relationships, all kinds of emotions and energy start to get involved with your life. And if you don't carefully choose who you engage with, that's when you get this phenomenon of scarlet women or these agents or the psychic vampires that can come in and suck your souls out. And, you know, this whole countercultural messages of, hey, you're free, you can make your own choices, it's peace, it's love, you know, there's no rules. It's very, very seductive. And then the people delivering those messages, they'll say about guys like you and I, Jan, saying like, wait a minute, don't just believe that, think about it before you go into it. They say that we're promoting fear, you know, that don't listen to us because we're fear pornographers. And what they're saying is love, just go with love, you know. They're saying do what thou wilt and they love you and you're a god. These other people are saying that you're not a god.
Even though they have to lie to you while they're apparently loving you, and all of their stuff is based on sophism and lies and manipulation. So it's all contradictions that spew from their mouths, you know.
Exactly. Exactly, and I think that's probably a good point to wrap it up on tonight. I love this little slide here of all the world leaders doing the devil horns, you know, and look at them all. You know, you've got the Pope, you've got Hillary Clinton, you've got leaders of Iran, George Bush, you know, all of them doing these devil horns. So, how big is this combine? How deep does it go? You know, I think it's pretty big. I think it goes pretty deep, and I think it's pretty powerful. But at the end of the day, Satan has never, ever won yet. And I think the natural state of the universe is a state of positivity and improvement and love. And so I'm on the side of love.
Well, not Crowley's love. Do what thou wilt do what thou wilt. As the whole of the law under law, or something like that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, no, that's why my brain tunes that stuff out these days.
Right.
But
I'll stick with truth and integrity and things that they don't have, and we can just sit back and watch them fall as they always have.
Absolutely. And so we covered a lot of ground tonight, Jan. These things always take a lot longer than I would like them to because there's just so much information to go through. But I think if some people are left a little bit wondering, oh, wait a minute, I don't quite see or the connections to Burning Man. We'll start to get into that in the next part. So I look forward to doing that soon.
All right, great. And Steve, thank you so much for this very fascinating episode. No doubt they're not going to like this. Again, ladies and gentlemen, please download this episode and upload it to all of your own channels, etc., and make sure you share it far and wide so that they can never prevent the truth from getting out.
Night, everybody.